Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are heading up to the Northern Lakes, the Northwest, as we are really the Northeast Central Time area. We're taking a look at the Detroit Red Wings and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Really some major news out of Columbus. I'm not really sure what their mindset is with what was supposed to be a protege to Pierre-Luc Dubois. Alex Texier is on the trade block. Over in Detroit, it sounds like they're taking calls on Tyler Bertuzzi, as he seems to be generating some interest, as well as a couple of other rentals. We'll be going over all of those guys today. So the first one, we're starting off this video in Columbus. The Columbus Blue Jackets, Joonas Korpisalo. Korpisalo is the first one we're taking a look at today. And he's one of those guys that has kind of fallen under the gun to Elvis Merzlikins, who has become the starter over in Columbus and kind of leaves Korpisalo in the dust. He's due for a new contract this summer, and the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are bottom 10, 15 in the league, actually, you know what? They are not in a playoff spot. And I think the problem is they're actually the closest team to a wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. I think they're still like 10 points behind the Bruins or whoever that last team is in the East in the playoffs. So they're still kind of out of it, even though they're the first team out, if that makes sense. But they're taking calls on a couple of guys, and the first one being Korpisalo. This from Elliot Friedman. The Blue Jackets' asking price for Korpisalo is a second and third round pick. You have to think the similar teams that are in the goalie chase right now. I wonder if the Flames are looking for a backup. I could see Korpisalo ending up in Calgary. Again, just my speculation there. I could see that being a fit. I could see LA maybe taking a look there. Obviously, the Oilers, they're one of the popular teams looking for a goalie. I could definitely see them there as well. And I could even see a team like the Leafs. I think there's a couple of different teams looking for a backup. Korpisalo could be that guy. Teams on the trade market are concerned with Jack Roslovic's work ethic. From Frank Saravelli, they just acquired him last year from the Jets in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. He is from Columbus, Ohio. He's back in his hometown. Had a really nice turnaround once he got to Columbus last season. But that's kind of changed this year. Same head coach and just really different results. Unfortunately for him, Roslovic has really had a problem this year, and maybe some of that is contributed to his work ethic. In 50 games this year, I think he has 22 points, which is well below what the expectations were for him this season. And he's looking like a guy that's playing bottom six, maybe even on the scratch pad at this point. So Roslovic, kind of a head scratcher there. Speaking of head scratchers, this is the big one for today's video. And this is from Frank Saravelli. I didn't even know this was really out there, and all of a sudden it just kind of popped out. Sources say the Blue Jackets have been taking calls on Alex Texier in the last days/weeks. He has generated significant interest. I wonder why. CBJ are believed to be asking for a first-round pick for Texier, as well as a roster player, which is probably part of that, because I think that's a fair value for Texier. Texier is 22 years old. I think he has 20 points in 35 games or something like that, but he's been injured. He was on the IR right now, which he's listed as today. A former second-round pick in 2017, Alex Texier. Again, this was supposed to be the guy to replace Pierre-Luc Dubois, but maybe that's because the Blue Jackets just weren't very good. And with the new guys behind the bench and some new eyes and ideas and philosophies, maybe Texier isn't that guy that we expected him to be as early as last season, right? Blue Jackets are hoping to get a first and a roster player for Texier from Frank Saravelli. So that was really the big one for me. I think that's a little bit odd that they're selling out on a guy who has, he's not even a restricted free agent. He's a restricted free agent next summer. I don't get what the real rush is here to trade Texier, but let me know what you guys think. I think that one's kind of a head scratcher, and maybe that's because guys like Cole Sillinger have come up and just kind of taken that. I don't know. So now we move to Detroit. Steve Yzerman's definitely getting his fingers wet with in terms of moves. Kind of like the Blue Jackets, the Red Wings are in a very similar spot. They're 1-2 in terms of just teams outside of the wild card hunt, but they're looking at, by the day, more and more out of the race, as they're at least, I think, a dozen points out of a playoff spot. This is from David Pajnoda. Detroit have Nick Leddy and Vladislav Nemesnikov, who have started to generate a little more interest. Seems like they may be more willing to move on from Nick Leddy than they are Nemesnikov, unless they get a really solid offer. They got Nick Leddy from the New York Islanders last summer as a part of that deal with the Islanders. The Islanders were trying to move cap space. They knew Nick Leddy could be a guy that ended up going in the expansion draft to Seattle, so they made a deal with Stevie Y. They brought in the contract of Richard Panik. I think they traded out his second-round pick. So they got some pretty good assets there. But Nick Leddy ended up being a decent player. I don't know what the Red Wings are really going to get for Nick Leddy. With guys like Chychrun out there, Klingberg, and now Hampus Lindholm, I just don't know where Nick Leddy sits on that chart. He's definitely lower on the list than those other guys. Nemesnikov, on the other hand, though, I think he's been a pretty decent player. I think he likes playing in Detroit. He may even re-sign in Detroit to stay under Stevie Y's wing. But I could see him going to a couple teams at the deadline. I think Nemesnikov could be a fit in Washington, Toronto, even the New York Rangers. I don't know if they feel great about bringing him back to the Rangers, but I could see that being a fit. This one was a little bit interesting too, as the Red Wings just re-signed Tyler Bertuzzi to a pretty long extension. I think a 6-year extension, 5 or 6 year deal. From David Pajnoda, teams around the league have shown interest in Red Wings forward Tyler Bertuzzi. Again, doesn't show that Yzerman is necessarily shopping Bertuzzi, but the fact that there are multiple teams calling about Bertuzzi makes you wonder. A lot of teams like Tyler Bertuzzi. I think his stock has definitely risen this season, and as the Red Wings are out of the playoffs, and maybe as a way to move out some cap, maybe the Red Wings do decide to move on from him. I think that's kind of a long shot, but again, we didn't think Mantha would move last year at last year's deadline, and look how that turned out. He ended up in Washington. So expect the unexpected with Stevie Yzerman. So take that with a grain of salt, but definitely have it in the back of your mind, as maybe we could see a Tyler Bertuzzi, a shocking trade at the deadline. So guys, that is it for today's video. Some interesting stuff here. Tyler Bertuzzi on the trade market after he just signed a contract extension last summer. And obviously the big one in Columbus. We've heard of some of the other names like Rosovic and Korpisalo, but Alex Texier, the 22-year-old, is apparently, multiple teams seem to be taking interest, and it seems like the Blue Jackets are taking calls on Texier. So let me know what you guys think of that. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.